Most men don't change when it's wise. They change when it's unbearable. And when that moment finally comes, they don't grow, they flee. They quit the job without a plan. They emotionally check out of the marriage. They blow up the relationship instead of doing the work inside of it. They numb, they distract, they start over somewhere else without ever actually upgrading the internal operating system that's created the problem. Today isn't about motivation. It's about changing the mental program that decides when you move. Because if pain is the only thing that gives you permission to change, you're always going to wait too long. By the end of the episode today, guys, you're going to understand why your brain resists proactive change, why most men stay stuck far longer than they should, and how to stop waiting for life to hurt badly enough before you finally decide to grow. This is about learning to move before things break. In your work, in your health, especially in your relationships. Now, before we go any further, guys, let me take a quick minute to thank the sponsors who make the show possible. The past year has been one of the hardest in MyPillow history. It's because of you that they're making it through. They want to thank you for your continued support by passing on some Christmas specials to our listeners. Get the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for $29.98. I have it at my house. My slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for $39.98. Blankets, comforters, and duvets for as low as $25. And a blowout sale on all the standard MyPillows for just $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-794-5834 and use promo code THRIVE to take advantage of all these wholesale prices, including the standard MyPillow original for $49.98 normally, now only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. Kings, only $1 more. Guys, we know MyPillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but MyPillow has just announced that they're extending their 60-day money-back guarantee. That's right. Orders placed between now and December 25th will have their 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2026. Now, let's get on with the show.
The Driven to Thrive broadcast. Purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. Helping men go from living to thriving, purpose-filled, intentional lives.
Welcome to the Driven to Thrive broadcast, where men learn to lead themselves, their families, and their world with purpose, growth, and lasting impact. This show is for men who are done living on autopilot, done chasing comfort, and ready to build that life of purpose, strength, and intention. I'm your host, Brent Dowlen, and today we're talking about why most men don't change until it hurts, and how to reprogram that instinct before it costs you something you can't get back. Most experts have agreed for a long time that people specifically don't change until a level of discomfort in staying the same or in the same situation surpasses the discomfort of change or doing something about it. That's backed by a lot of research, but how do we fix it? We've all heard the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? Well, that saying assumes that people are passive, change is external, and motivation must come from pain or pressure. But it's wrong. People don't drink because they don't believe they're dehydrated, or worse, they've normalized thirst. Men stay stuck not because they can't change, but because their internal pain gauge is broken. They're just so used to life sucking. Here's the shift I'm hoping you walk away with today. Most men don't lack discipline. They lack a healthy trigger for growth. They wait for pain with a broken pain gauge to force action, instead of training themselves to respond to awareness, ownership, and vision. And we're going to fix that today, because looking back at the last year and what I have encountered with so many men, this is probably one of the most important episodes that I'll do this year for you guys, because this is that hidden mechanic that I haven't quite figured out how to put down on audio or video, whatever you want to say today. This is that one I've been trying to figure out how to share with you guys, because this is the same trap that is keeping so many men stuck. We've got to stop waiting for things to totally fall apart and the pain to be bad enough that it demands us to do something. So this one's going to fix that, guys, but tune in. It's only going to take a few minutes for us to get through this, but I promise this will be one of the most important episodes you listen to this year. So the question becomes, why do we wait until it hurts? And here's the truth that most men never hear explained. Your brain is not designed for growth. It's designed for survival. From a neuroscience standpoint, your brain prioritizes predictability over progress. Known discomfort feels safer than unknown effort, even when the known discomfort is slowly killing your confidence. That's why a bad job can feel stable and sustainable, why a cold marriage can feel normal, and why mediocre health feels, we can do this. Your brain quietly says, at least I know what this feels like. Uncertainty is the brain's enemy. It's dangerous. It's killing a lot of us. Marcus Aurelius said, what stands in the way comes the way. But most men don't see resistance as information. They see it as a stop sign. Scripture puts it even more clearly. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You see, transformation doesn't start with behavior. It starts with how you interpret discomfort. It starts with your mind. For example, in a relationship, this shows up constantly. A man feels distance from his wife, but instead of addressing it, he normalizes it. He tells himself, marriage is hard. Well, yeah, sure it is. Or, we're just busy. Yep, you probably are. Or, this is just for a season. Everybody goes through this. Yeah, guilty, done that one myself. Until one day, she's emotionally gone and he's mentally checked out of the relationship. The conversation turns into, I'm not happy anymore. The discomfort was there long before the crisis. He just trained himself to ignore it, and so did she. Real application here is super simple for you guys, but it's going to be uncomfortable. This week, ask yourself this really important question this week. Where have I normalized something that should be confronting me, that is a flag I should be paying attention to, actually? I promise you're doing it way more than you realize. It's not because you want to stay in a bad situation. It's not because you like to suffer. It's because we're just taught to grin and bear it. And so we learn to push away those warnings. So if the brains avoid uncertainty and resistance isn't weakness, why do men wait until pain finally forces them to move? It's simple. It's because pain has become the trigger. And guys, pain is a terrible trigger for growth. Pain feels powerful. It feels decisive. It feels like clarity. But neurologically, pain shuts down the part of your brain responsible for long-term thinking. Pain activates the amygdala, the fight, flight, freeze response that we've talked about many times on this show. Well, growth requires reflection and intention, which doesn't coincide with your amygdala lighting up. Pain, it makes you reactive. Growth, well, that requires you to be deliberate. Seneca warned us about this centuries ago. He who suffers before it's necessary suffers more than is necessary. Simple version of that, guys. When you choose to stay in it until you hit a breaking point, the escalation is long, usually extreme and unnecessary. You could have avoided most of that pain if you had acted on the warning signs a long time ago. When men wait for pain, they don't evolve, they escape. In fact, most men avoid it as opposed to confront the situation. Because despite what other people will tell you, honestly, even men, most men, are really non-confrontational. They want peace. They want to be able to relax and have peace and not have their life flooded with stress because they have a lot of stress in their life. And so instead of dealing with it, they leave the job instead of developing the skill. They leave the relationship instead of becoming emotionally present. They start over, but they do it with the same internal patterns already existing in their life. And thus the pattern repeats itself. Scripture tells us the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Some Proverbs, there's a lot of great sayings like that there. You see, wisdom moves early, but pain moves late. In a relationship, pain-triggered change looks kind of like this. A man finally starts to listen when divorce is mentioned. He finally becomes affectionate when trust is already eroded. He finally fights for connection when the bond is hanging by a thread. It's not leadership. That's emergency response. The practical shift here is learning to replace pain with cost awareness. Instead of asking, how bad does this have to get? Ask, what's this costing me right now? Is this costing me closeness with my wife? Is it costing me respect from my kids? Is it costing my own self-respect? That question wakes up men before the pain has to. But once pain stops being the trigger, something else has to replace it. And this is where most men either level up or stay stuck forever because the replacement, it's ownership. Before we move into ownership and reprogramming yourself for success, guys, if you want to see the behind the scenes on how this all works, I have 4 shows. What life is like as a content creator, podcaster, entrepreneur, father, husband, trying to do this crazy world of the creator environment that I live in. Check out our Patreon with our exclusive podcasts behind closed mics, fallible and unfiltered, the messy, honest truth of growing as a man and a content creator. It's a real, unfiltered look at what life looks like in this crazy world I live in, because I know a lot of people like to see this insanity that I live in, because trust me, being a creator is insane. It also has behind the scenes conversations from various podcasts I do, extended breakdowns, worksheets, and frameworks you can actually use. And you can find that link in the show notes below. Now let's finish this strong, guys. We need to reprogram that growth trigger. So here's the shift that changes everything. Proactive men don't wait for pain. They respond to identity. From a neuroscience standpoint, identity-based decisions are far more powerful than emotional-based ones. You don't rise to motivation. You default to who you believe you are. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Scripture echoes this in Proverbs when it says, if a man thinks in his heart, so he is. When a man decides, I'm the kind of husband who addresses distance early, he doesn't have to wait for a crisis to have the conversation that he needs to. When he decides, I'm the man who leads himself, he doesn't need pain to force discipline. So here's a practical question I want you to sit with. If nothing around me changes for the next 6 months, because I know life can change fast, who do I need to become to thrive? You have to have that image in your head, guys. You have to break it down and have clarity about who you want to be. You have to see that image for you to get there. Not escape, not reset, not start over. Become one habit to train, one skill to sharpen, one responsibility to fully own. This is how we start to become the person we want to be, to become the person who thrives. That's proactive growth. Now, here's a simple practice called the tactical change system to help you start building the habits that you need to get where you want to go, that I learned from Duncan Brown, who was on one of my podcasts. And James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, supports the concept. take an existing positive habit, something you already do, like making your first cup of coffee in the morning, and convert it into a trigger by taking another action. So take the action, right? And that can be, guys, that can be maybe you want to read more. The person you want to become, the person you're becoming reads. The person you're becoming journals or meditates. Pick the action and associate it with something that's already a positive trigger, right? That might be getting your first cup of coffee, like I said. And that's the example Duncan likes to use. So pick the trigger. When I pour my first cup of coffee, I sit down and read 10 pages. You have to tell yourself the story, but you associate it with something you're already doing, right? When I pour this cup of coffee, I sit down and read 10 pages. Then afterwards, celebrate. Put down your book, smile, tell yourself, man, I am reading, and that is, it's amazing. I feel amazing that I am reading, right? Celebrate it, like literally force a smile onto your face and tell yourself, great job. Mark it off your to-do list and be like, yeah, I did that. That's important. This is a highly effective way to start change by taking one habit and turning it into a positive trigger. Duncan talked about it in the course of dealing with addiction. I'm just converting it into how do you actually start to grow? Same exact plan. Like I said, it's called the tactical change system. I'll try and link Duncan's episode down in the show notes. Take a positive habit. Maybe it's when you brush your teeth when you first get up in the morning, or when you pour that first cup of coffee, or when you take your first break at work. Set an action to respond to that and pair with it. I journal, I meditate, I pray, I repeat an affirmation, I do 10 push-ups. When you complete it, celebrate. Smile, that's important. You need to smile. You're telling your brain that you're happy about this when you smile. Tell yourself, great job. Cheer yourself on for doing that action. Do it every single day, and you will start to form this new positive habit that will get you where you want to go. You don't need life to break you to justify change. You don't need pain's permission to grow. Growth whispers long before pain screams, guys. Pain screams. And the man who learns to listen early builds the life that doesn't need an emergency exit to make a change. This week, don't wait for the pressure. Choose one thing you've been tolerating. Take ownership of it. If this episode challenged you guys, share it with someone who's still waiting for pain to decide their future. You can also join our mailing list at purposedrivenmen.com for more conversations like this. And as always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today. We'll see you on the next one.
The Driven to Thrive broadcast, purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. Helping men go from living to thriving, purpose-filled, intentional lives.